That's the bearing right there. Literally, the bearing came. It was so there was like literally there was no grease at all inside this bearing. It was completely dry. And so I used my shop press. Bad shadow. I used my shop press to get this bearing out, and the bearing is in pretty bad shape. Literally, there was no grease at all inside this bearing. It was completely dry. And I was just gonna make a video. I just pressed this bearing in, and I want to make a video to explain. I bought these bearings are a lot bigger than most of the bearings that I've ever worked with, and this is the old bearing right here. It all fell apart. But if you try to take one of these kits, these bearing driver or whatever you call them, and you try to put it on the bearing, now the bearing was up but this, if you just put this flat on the seal part of the bearing, this like this, and try to drive it in with your shop press, you'll bend this seal right here. The seal will bend. I know because I tried it first and it bent. So I had to take the screwdriver, stick it in the center here, and just keep prying up on this until it bent the seal back into place. Like this is the seal that bent, but you can see I fixed it, but I was able to bend it back into shape. But what you want to do is take the old bearing. This is the only way that it worked. Take the old bearing. You have to have this ring part right here. You put this on top of the bearing, and then you put this on top like that. And that's how you put it in your press. You put your press and push it down like that. That's the only way you can do it. And when the bearing's up, like way up here, you have to hold this, make sure it doesn't slide off. Once you get it down in here, then it's going to stay on there. But that's basically the only way you can do it. Because this piece right here pushes down, and this centerpiece is designed to stick up just a little bit like that. So when you're pushing it down, these are not designed for bearings. So you don't want to push on the center part of a bearing. It'll bend this part right here. It'll bend it down. It may not be that big of a deal, but that ring right there is the only thing basically holding the bearings in there, and it's just probably not a good idea to bend them. And it worked. So when I was driving the bearing down, in order to make sure that it was in there enough, so when I started pressing it down, it would basically go down without any problem. I just took like a piece of pipe, and I would just press it on the right here, just kind of sort of at an angle, like just position it so like when you press down on this outer edge, you could see if it's starting to go down. So that's how I did it, to make sure that that when I really pressed down in this with the old bearing on there, that it was in far enough that it wasn't going to like bind up and destroy this outer part. So that's basically, just had this up kind of like that, pushing down just on the sides, just very little. So what I'm going to do is set this up like this, and then I'm going to set that other piece on here, and then push it down that way. Okay, so this is how I have it set up. So see, this part right here only touches the center of the bearing, and then this whole piece right here is resting basically on the center. The outer part is just basically loose. You know, it's not being affected at all. Okay, I think that's it. I got it back on the car, and this plate right here can get bent pretty good from when you're pressing out the bearing, or pressing in the bearing I should say, or whatever. But this piece right here gets bent, so you just put the wheel back on, or actually rotor. You put the rotor back on to make sure it's not rubbing. I had to hit this part right here just to get it out of the way.